Howdy, folks. Thought I'd come back on here, do another record collection video. Picked up quite a bit of records. As a matter of fact, I doubled my collection pretty much since that last video. So without further ado, we'll get right into them. Okay, first up, we've got a special collector's edition of Oh Brother Where Art Thou soundtrack. Takes it's a two record set. This is what's known as a picture disc, which means that, for those of you who don't know, there's a picture on the record itself, and there's no label. You just put the needle right on where the picture is. Difficulty with this is it's hard to find different tracks. It makes it a little bit difficult to see because the lines don't show up as well. But see, there's the whole thing about the soundtrack. Yeah, Oh Brother Where Art Thou. I got that at Barnes & Noble. And this one, it was quite a hefty price. Actually, it was around, I believe, $40. And next up is the Eagles' Desperado, one of their least popular records. It did have a few hits off of it. It had less songs like Doolin Dalton, Tequila Sunrise, and Desperado, but that's about it. And of course, this one's also from Barnes & Noble. Yeah, it's just... Now, besides me going to Barnes & Noble, I have been going to a couple of record shops within the area, and so there's a good chance to pick up some used titles, which included Lee Greenwood's Greatest Hits. Of course, it's an MCA Records release. Some of these are going to be difficult to pull out of their sleeves. This one's fairly decent because it's in sideways. I'm trying not to pull the sleeve out. Pull the jacket out, but and it's just in a paper white sleeve. There's the record. Yeah, Lee Greenwood's Greatest Hits. I just happened to see this one in the store, because I just purchased it on CD, and I thought, hey, why not get the vinyl version? This is just so cool to have that. Next up, Rocky soundtrack. This is from the original Rocky movie. And this, of course, has been reissued because, if you look down here, it has the modern MGM logo. Now, a little bit of trivia about Rocky. It was released through United Artists, which MGM owns. But at the time, United Artists was its own company, so MGM had no affiliation. And, of course, here's this letter about Bill Conti from Sylvester Stallone. This is a Capitol Records release. Being through Universal Music. The original soundtrack was released on Liberty Records, as well as Rocky III. Now, this is a legitimate 1982 Rocky III soundtrack release. Matter of fact, I had to replace the sleeve in here that the record was in, because the original Liberty Records, which is owned by Capitol Records, was worn. It was pretty torn up. Next up is Eastbound and Down, Jerry Reed, which features the 3 songs from the Smokey and the Bandit movie. Eastbound and Down, the Bandit, and the Legend. All 3 were featured in the film Smokey and the Bandit. So he just ended up making a album. Yeah, he's getting pulled over by the cop. Next up, a couple records from John Mellencamp. My personal favorite, Scarecrow. It's a wonderful record. There's nothing more sad or glorious than generations changing hands. It's dedicated to his grandfather. This is my particular favorite John Mellencamp album. There's just something about this album that I just love the songs in them. And I don't think this one's a bad follow-up. The Lonesome Jubilee, which was the next one after that. I'm not going to pull this one out of the sleeve, but this was back when he was known as John Cougar Mellencamp. In case some of you people wondering where John Cougar came from, that was a made-up name that a guy who he was working with at the time, he didn't think the name John Mellencamp had much appeal, so he gave him the name Johnny Cougar. And it stuck for a while, and then he gradually got rid of the name. Next up, we got a few Eddie Rabbitt records. There's Horizon. I'm trying to think. This one had some hits on it. Yeah, this has A Love a Rainy Night, Driving My Life Away, and I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, it has some good songs on it. Here's another Eddie Rabbitt record. This is when he was on RCA Records. And this one had I Want to Dance With You and I believe The Wanderer. Yeah, The Wanderer, which was another #1 hit for him. And this one was when he was on Elektra Records, which is a division of Warner Brothers. Next up, classic Willie Nelson album, the soundtrack to Honeysuckle Rose. Yeah. And of course, again, these are used so you have people that are personalizing these records, and it even has the date that they purchased. This one went all out and wrote that down. You also have songs on here from Willie. And the ex-wife of Steven Spielberg, Amy Irving, she sings a few songs on here. Yeah. Classic 80s album, Huey Lewis and the News, Sports. Yeah, this is the original Chrysalis Records release. Not like the 20th anniversary or the 30th anniversary edition that Capitol Records just re-released. This is the original Chrysalis Records release with the original songs where they should be. Not that the remastered edition isn't, but there is some extra stuff. Next up, we have Tanya Tucker. This one's Girls Like Me. And this one had the famous songs I'll Come Back as Another Woman, Just Another Love, One Love at a Time, and It's Only Over for You. Those were the big hits off this. And this is, I believe, her first release on Capitol. But yeah, that's Tanya Tucker. Here's another one. Strong Enough to Bend. That was the famous song off that. Let's see what else we got here. Daddy and Home was another hit, but I don't think it was a big, well-known hit. I think that's about it. Yeah, that was 1988 release. Another Lee Greenwood record. Somebody's Gonna Love You. This had the famous songs IOU, Somebody's Gonna Love You. He even covered The Wind Beneath My Wings. He recorded that way before Bette Midler did. So, yeah. And this is, of course, another MCA Records release. Now, this one's a common one that you see. 25th anniversary of Thriller, Michael Jackson. It's a picture disc. And of course, this has the original album contents. It doesn't have the special edition contents that the CDs have. As you can see, here's the original. Here's the one side. If we pull it out, turn it over, we get to Michael with the zombies. Yeah. So yeah, there's Thriller. I think all of a sudden my light just came on. But yeah, Thriller. Yeah, the world's biggest selling album of all time. I think, no one's going to debate that. Next one is a real gem. Ghostbusters, the original soundtrack album. This, of course, is re-released. Is a re-release record because of Sony Music. Now, interesting fact, because Sony Music, or Columbia Pictures, is also owned by Sony, they finally had the rights to re-release the soundtrack. And of course, Arista Records is now under Sony Music. This pretty much has everything intact. I don't think no, it doesn't open up. May have an insert. Nope, I forgot. Well, yeah, that's the back. It did come with a digital download for the soundtrack in MP3. Now, they did this in honor of the 30th anniversary Blu-ray release. So, there may have been an insert about purchasing this on vinyl. Yeah, there was. But they re-released both soundtracks. Next up, country comedian Ray Stevens, Surely You Joust. And the big hit songs off this was Southern Air and the Smoky Mountain Rattlesnake Retreat. Both are hilarious songs. Also, Dudley Do-Right of the Highway Patrol. Yeah, so there you go. Next up, Jim Croce's Greatest Love Songs, featuring Time in a Bottle, Operator, I'll Have to Say I Love You in a Song, and Lover's Cross. And this was released on Lifesong Records. Classic album, Willie Nelson, Red-Headed Stranger. All a concept record, telling one big long story. And matter of fact, the seller said it right here. It says, a must-have country concept classic about a preacher on a killing spree. Heartache and a beautiful virtue tell a powerful and painful story. Yeah, there you go. See, that's another thing people miss on vinyl, or just making music in general, that an album is to tell a story. Next up, We got Exit O by Steve Earle and the Dukes. This, of course, was digitally recorded. The indication is right there. And this big hit songs off of this was Nowhere Road, The Rain Came Down, and I Ain't Ever Satisfied. This is with his band, the Dukes, that he played with on tour. Next up, we got Ed Sheeran, or Ed Sheeran. I can never pronounce this guy's name. Is it Ed Sheeran? You know, Thinking Out Loud. That's his big hit song. And this, of course, is a 2-record set because the album is so doggone long that Elektra Records, Atlantic Asylum Records, which are both Warner Brothers, they decided to do it properly and make it a 2-record set. As well as Old Crow Medicine Show, their album Remedy. Some really good songs off here. This is a bluegrass, kind of alternative country record. These guys have been on the Opry several times. Their most famous thing that they've ever done was Wagon Wheel. Yes, the Darius Rucker song, but they did it first. And matter of fact, they were the ones that found the song that Bob Dylan wrote, and the lead singer of this group got a hold of it and finished the song. So there you go. This is a rarity. Johnny Cash, The Holy Land. Again, it's a concept album like The Red-Headed Stranger, and where Johnny Cash sings about Christ and the nation of Israel. Interesting thing about this cover is that it has a lenticular cover. As you can kind of see there, Johnny Cash is a little three-dimensional there. This has the song The Land of Israel, Mother's Love, Daddy Sang Bass, The Ten Commandments. He Turned the Water into Wine, which is one of my particular favorite gospel songs that he wrote. Next up, we got Don Henley, Building the Perfect Beast. Geffen Records release, which was Warner Brothers at the time. Big hit songs was Sunset Grill, The Boys of Summer, and All She Wants to Do Is Dance. Yes, there you go. Speaking of Don Henley, there's the Eagles On the Border, which I believe this was the last release with Bernie Leadon on lead guitar. Big hit songs, Already Gone, James Dean, Old 55, Best of My Love. Next up, we got Emmylou Harris, Cimarron. I mainly bought this for one song that she had on here called Born to Run. I always liked that song for some reason. But, yeah, and this was a Warner Brothers release. Next up, I was surprised to find this. The soundtrack to George Stevens' The Greatest Story Ever Told. Composed by Alfred Newman on United Artists. This is a rare gem because I really enjoyed this movie. It's a really a well-told biblical epic about Christ. It is the film itself. It can be a little boring, but it's really well told. The record itself is not bad condition. The cover smells really bad, but the record plays really well after I cleaned it up. There was a few pops and clicks and stuff like that, so I cleaned it up really good, and it sounds really good. United Artists released the movie, so they released the soundtrack. So yeah, there you go. And this was a rare gem as well. Clint Black, Killing Time. In near mint condition. Of course, the big hit songs were Killing Time, Nothing's News, Walking Away, and A Better Man. However, I did find this, that there's an alternate version of Killing Time on here. I guess the version that I always listened to on the Greatest Hits package was the radio edit version. It was not the album version. The last of the Eagles albums, The Long Run. This is the last record that they ever made together. As you know, they came back, but this was the last one of where they were going to make new material at the time. This was the one that broke everything up. And big hit songs were The Long Run, I Can't Tell You Why, In the City, Heartache Tonight, and The Sad Cafe. They called it The Long Run because it was really, really long to produce. And plus, most of them were on cocaine at the time, and they couldn't really function. And I just got these three today, and so they're the last three. George Strait, Does Fort Worth Cross Your Mind? And this big hit songs off the album was Does Fort Worth Cross Your Mind? The Cowboy Rides Away, and The Fireman. So yeah, there you go. Any song sung by George Strait is country at its best. And now here's a couple more gems I found, the soundtracks. The original The Muppet Movie soundtrack. This has since been re-released on Walt Disney Records, but this was originally released on Atlantic Records, a Warner Brothers label. So yeah. It has, and Disney kept everything just the way it was. Yeah, that was a Oscar nominated soundtrack. And of course, Superman the movie, composed and conducted by John Williams. This, I thought, oh my gosh, I have to get this. This is fan-freaking-tastic. Because, look at that. That's just cool to look at. But then we open it up. We get that. How cool is that? Christopher Reeve. And of course it was a Warner Brothers release. And Warner Brothers released the soundtrack. So there you go. There's the record haul for this time around. Don't know when the next one's going to be, so got a lot of stuff. Got a lot of music to listen to. So from me to you, see you later.